Hey guys, welcome back to the 1v1 podcast. I am your host Vlhadus, and today I have with me for round two, CptRhedBeard. What's going on, man? It's always
What's up,
good.
man?
It's always
Yeah,
so good. It's always so good talking to you, dude. We haven't talked in so long because you've been doing this whole streaming thing. How's that all been going out?
it's good. Yeah, I did I finally was like, you know what? This is something that I enjoy doing, and you find time for stuff that you enjoy doing. And
Yeah,
Mrs. Beard was like, "Well, what if you were to just stream 30 days in a row, and kind of use that as a way to kind of force yourself back into it?" And so did that. Was really excited to get through that, and now just on a normal streaming schedule, and excited to be back. So.
that's awesome, man. I mean, honestly, like I do want to get into the streaming bit, but my current schedule from being 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, um, and then even if I were to stream for like an hour, I just don't feel like it's worth it right now. So I'd rather just dedicate my time into making my YouTube content for now, and then just have my time to do the things I want to do and stuff like that. But so people that don't know who you are, just to give a little background on like your little game, your gaming history, your MMO experience, all that stuff, and then we can talk all the Ashes stuff because there's so much to talk about. There's so much to go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did the 1v1 with you a couple months ago.
Right?
That was before my midlife gamer identity crisis. I was known as Super.
It's true.
um, but yeah, so for a long time was recognized as Super, and just was feeling a little bit of a disconnect from that. So decided to go with something a little bit more updated and personable. So felt like Captain Redbeard was applicable. Um,
Definitely, definitely.
but yeah, try to run through it a little bit quicker than last time here. Um, highly competitive gamer overall. Started off with shooters when I was younger, not to include like Game Boy Color and like whatever random game that was preloaded on like you know Dell PCs back in the day
Right,
and
right,
all that
right.
stuff. But um, yeah, random or competitive shooters. So Call of Duty, primarily Call of Duty. I was a I was an Activision shill back in the day for Call of Duty stuff. So um
I was a
and
Bungie
Treyarch.
shell, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Halo. That's all I
Um
did.
First MMORPG was Star Wars: The Old Republic. Played that from launch basically until they had confirmed that they were no longer bringing out any more raid content. At that point, switched over to World of Warcraft, which was at the end of Warlords of Draenor. Played with on like friends and family night with a highly competitive guild that I knew from SWOTOR over there, but hadn't really gotten into the competitive rating scene in WoW just yet. I had come from that in Star Wars: The Old Republic, and was just looking to, you gotta build up your numbers and whatnot, right? You gotta show that you
For
know what you're
sure.
doing, and it
For
was
sure.
a whole new game, whole new IP for me, so I had to learn it all. Um, then Legion comes around and definitely get into it. I had pushed into a top 10 server to push server first within that server. Um, so just to say it was like actually a competitive server. Sometimes people say server first and it's like an RP server and their alliance on like a 90% horde server. And it's like, okay, cool. But you're only like in the top like 500 in the world or something like that. So how
Right.
competitive is it really? Not
Right.
to hate on anybody, but there's a difference.
No, for sure. I mean, but the thing is that you have a lot of experience when it comes to high end rating and just like
Mm.
PvPing, dungeons, raids, etc. So I just want to get it across to people. He's a very analytical, very like awesome. He was a mythic raider. Like he knows his shit. I'll put it that way. So, but that's why I love talking to you, dude, because like, I played WoW for so long. I was very much in the raiding scene. And, right now we finally got a little bit of a combat update with Ashes of
Mhm.
Creation, and it was it's a basic combat update, which again, I think that was still a great thing that Steven did. Because I think if he would have waited 4 more months to do this grand reveal on combat and just kind of pity pattered around like other systems while people are literally been asking, just show us something combat related. I think it was a good move. Like I don't know how you feel about it, if it was good, bad, or maybe they should have showed more. But I think it kind of satiated the the community for now. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah, it definitely gave people something to talk about, right? I mean,
For sure.
you know, for those watching, I mean, we literally just got out
Yeah.
of the office chat, the
The
office
office
chat that
hours. Yeah.
office hours that Vaknar and Roshan put on for
Right. It
in
was
the
a
Ashes.
good. It was
Yeah,
good.
it was good, but like having a good the word that comes to mind, girthy update, you know, something that we can actually like talk about and really sink our teeth into and kind of, you know, give good feedback on that. So from that standpoint, I think it was good. I did have a concern going into the update, just based on like how Steven had said, like, oh, we're gonna kind of piecemeal it. And I'm like, my initial thought was, okay, this might be I had a concern that they were lacking vision on what they wanted out of combat because they felt
Hmm.
like they needed to get feedback on all of these different points at different sets of time.
Right.
And so I kind of interpreted that as, oh, we might not know exactly what it is that like what we're wanting to accomplish with combat. And so we
Right.
need your feedback to get us there. And that didn't, in my opinion, that didn't end up being the case at all. If
Right.
anything, I was um, very impressed with how the combat, not just how the combat is looking, but how they decided to update it.
Right.
Again, when I saw the stream title, the monthly update, when it said melee basic attacks, I was
Oh,
like, oh
dude.
man, is he just gonna go out there and just swing one ability like you
That's
know
what
for 5 minutes?
that's what I was not hoping for, to be honest. I'm
Yeah,
glad they threw in some weapon master abilities.
yep,
That freaking hammer ability that Steven missed 90% of the time. It
yep,
was so good, And I love the fact that they're gonna have abilities like that. I think the Blade Storm ability, uh, man, it looked really good. Like coming from World of Warcraft, where I see the Blade Storm on there and I see this one. I love the freaking like the uppercut at the end. Like that was such a real like nice touch. But
yeah.
I mean, ultimately, right? Do you think do you think the community? I was actually shocked. I don't know how to really ask this in a question, but I'll just say this: I was really shocked that the community took very positively to the update because for how long we waited, I thought people were going to be more in the lines of, this is it? What is this? Like, this isn't enough. Like, what about this and this and that and that? And there was just to be this whole thing on the forums of people just complaining that, like it wasn't going to satiate people, but it
Mhm.
did. You know what I mean? And I am very grateful that people actually, that happened to people. I think the other thing that I was like, I guess it's not immediate feedback, right? Because like I know people were talking about like weapon sounds, oh, I hit rock, so they should do this little animation here. I'm like I understand, but it's like this is literally not even alpha 2 yet. Like they're
Mhm.
still like as of today consistently reiterating and improving everything involved in just the melee combat attack. I don't understand why people think like, oh, they're going to forget about this aspect of like when I hit, stone, it's going to make a different noise than this. Or, like I think the animations too, like, I mean, you can say that the animations were, I don't know how you feel about the animations. Some of the animations were a little scuffy, but I was
Mhm.
expecting that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah,
wasn't expecting them to be so full fidelity finished product. Like, we're completely done. You know what I mean? Like, I was
yeah.
just wanting to see where they were going, you know?
I it's interesting because I in a weird way, I feel like they've done too good of a job at making the game look good, like the
No,
environment, the
I,
characters,
I completely
because
agree.
it looks like a launch ready
I,
game, but then you see the combat that's like being iterated upon,
oh, I
like
know. Yeah.
in that skin of, you know, a world that looks like it's ready to go. And so I could definitely see that kind of playing some tricks on people where it's like, "Oh, this
Yes.
game looks amazing," especially from the weather update like the month before.
Hmm.
Like, and so, you know, you go weather update, the world looks amazing, all this stuff looks awesome, and then you see some slight scuffness like within the combat update, and it might stand out a little bit more because everything else looks gorgeous. And
Right.
so, in a weird way, like, and I don't want him to change it, but like, it's just it's kind of funny to think like you might have done too good of a job at making the game look this good this early.
I
Like
know, dude. But it's like because people's expectations, and I
Mhm.
have this video that I don't know how I'm gonna do, and I found a couple some footage from like Final Fantasy 14 when it launched. Like I was trying to find something like when it was an alpha or beta, but a lot of like Korean and Japanese MMOs, like you can't really find that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But if people remember when Final Fantasy 14 launched, the combat was not great.
Mhm.
And again, like, you know, I understand that people are looking at their MMO, whether it's like BDO, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2, and they're thinking of the combat as of right now.
Yeah.
Those games have been out for years. Like you're literally comparing a finished product that's been polished over and over to an unrefined gem. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like that's literally what people are doing. But I understand why. You know, because we want to get it to that point, right? We want to get it that refined, beautiful amulet or that amulet, that diamond to like shine. You know what I mean? And I, I, I just think that people's expectations are really high
Yeah.
for
Well,
combat.
it's I mean, I've said this for a while now. Had Intrepid not made the promise to show open development, I would have preferred if it was still behind closed doors. I think that the pro of I think you can still have a lot of good community feedback
Hmm.
by just allowing more people into the NDA testing side of stuff,
Right.
and just expanding upon that side of it, and then just closed dooring everything else. I know, people who aren't bought in would probably like want to hit me for saying that, but um, there is a pretty sharp double-edged sword when it comes to open development, and I think that Intrepid is kind of, particularly Steven has noticed that, especially with the delay of the dates for Alpha One in the past, and
Right.
back when they had the AI controller issue and how all of that is looking. And I think overall the feedback and the response has been positive
Right.
from Alpha One even all the way up to this combat update. Um, but I think you could have gotten that same feedback still with an NDA. Maybe not, but I definitely prefer a closed development process, whether I'm on the inside or not. Because if I'm not
Right.
on the inside, then I'm not sitting here clamoring for this game that's still 2 years away. Like, like
It's
just
true. It's true.
just waiting, and no other game like can fill that gaming void, because I know what's around the corner, even if the corner is 300 blocks away. Like
Right.
it's like I know it's there, and it's hard, and so
Right.
it is very hard to go through it and kind of curb your expectation, and take a step back and go, okay, this game looks awesome, everything is looking good. What is it, how do I as an individual need to approach this? Okay, here's what I need to do, especially as a content creator. When I see something I don't like, I need to call it out, and I need to make sure that it's coming from a constructive side, whether I'm responding in forums, whether
Right.
I am responding on Twitter, whether I'm responding, via just a Twitch stream or a YouTube video, whatever. I need to make sure that I'm not just bitching, right? But that I
Right.
am saying, hey, I saw this as an issue. Here are some things that I think would help it make it feel better. Um, Giving constructive feedback as opposed to just whining about it.
For
Um,
sure.
and then any of the systems where I am not 100% sure about, like, um, oh, what was one that we were talking about earlier that, I think it was, how weapons are not gonna have any active skills tied to them.
Oh, thank God. Oh, I
And
hate that.
hold on.
What?
Here's where the 1v1 kicks off.
Oh no.
No, so I'm not actually on the other side of it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
um the concern that I have with it is with there with there not being, I'm trying to make sure I articulate this correctly. With there not being any active skills tied to the weapon skill or talent tree. Let me
Right.
make sure I say talent tree, not skill tree, talent tree. Um, that potentially raises an issue in my mind where, and we saw this on the live stream actually, when he was wielding the daggers and he still did the whirlwind ability. The assumption there being, obviously, we don't have all of the information, but the
Right.
assumption there being is that the whirlwind ability is a class kit ability
Right.
and has nothing to do with the weapon. Then he then later on confirms that yes, the weapons don't have any abilities tied to them.
Right.
Visually, it's a little bit disconnecting to see a dagger spin in the same radius as a greatsword. So my issue isn't necessarily that the greatsword and the dagger have the same ability. It's that visually there is no difference between the two.
Right.
That then goes further into what if I am a um, some kind of spellcaster, summoner, mage, and I have a sword applied. Do I still throw a fireball? Like, do I have to have the two-handed staff and or the wand and tome to be able to send out that fireball? Like, is it like a requirement for that ability to be used? And if so, then
S-
why don't we just have restrictions anyways? Like, so I just kind of need to see how all of that plays out because with the weapon not either A, determining what skills can be used, or B, opening up skills for you to use. Um,
Right.
I don't know how that plays when people are trying to live out their fantasy. Regardless, you're going to have the meta, right? If you're a ranger,
Right.
you're probably going to run around with a bow. If you're a ranger running around with a wand and tome, people are going to look at you sideways and go, "Okay, you can live out your fantasy, but not in my group."
Well, true. And here's the thing, like, so I understand because me and Fane were talking about this a couple of days ago that you're going to be able to switch weapons. However, there is going to be a sword, an offhand, right? So you're going to have
Mhm.
like a either a one-handed and a shield, or one two-hander, and then you could also also have a ranged weapon, which it can be a wand, it could be a bow, it could be, you know, whatever. So as a mage, if I have a sword and shield, my range can be a wand. You know, but the fireball ability, I'm not going to cast for my wand. I'm just going to reach out my hand or
Kamehameha that thing. Yeah.
Kamehameha, yeah, because it's,
Yep.
you know, and it's the same thing like in World of Warcraft. Like right now, a Fury Warrior can have on two staves transmogged, and you just see like these branches just coming out, blade storming. It looks crazy. But I guess for me, like I do agree that maybe some of the animations for different weapon types need to be adjusted so it doesn't look as wonky. But like I said, I am just very glad it's not going the Guild Wars 2 route of having abilities tied to weapons because I just don't like that at all. Like I think having oh, you want to have this one-handed mace and then you also want to have this two-handed you know, pole arm or whatever, and you need these two combinations to have a rotation, you know, and that's the meta right now. But it's like, but I like these other abilities that are in other weapons. It's like, and I never understand that either from a lore perspective. Like if you're in a magical world, like and you have like trainers and mages and stuff like that, how are you getting abilities from weapons? You get abilities from learning more about your your magic. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you know, so that's to me it just makes more sense. And I'm just again, I'm really glad that Steven is going that route. And I understand because there are so many Guild Wars 2 people in Ashes. And they were like wanting it to be like Guild Wars 2, like in every freaking facet. And I think a lot of people were disappointed when Steven said, I am not a fan of, you know,
Yeah.
weapon side
Oh yeah.
abilities.
Not only is it not going to be in there, but he
Yeah.
is not a fan.
Yeah, he
Like
is
he made
not
that
a
very
fan.
clear.
Yeah, and neither am I. So I remember this live stream to me was so awesome because I know when we were having a conversation in Axiom, I said, look, I all I want is a conversation. And what I will give Steven like so many props for is bringing his developers to talk with him. And he's done this multiple times now. And I love that because I just like how me and you were having a conversation, right? Because there's just more to get across. It's the same thing that works with like opening a dialogue for the feedback, right? I'm going to bring my devs in. We're going to have a conversation. You're going to be able to listen to it so you can understand where we're coming from, what it took to get here, and where we're going. Like that's all I wanted from combat is, and I think that's for me. I love the direction they're going because unlike to a lot of other developers, where sometimes I fucking question, do these developers even play this game? Clearly, you know, the people at Intrepid are very much players of MMOs. And it's like that guy said, he goes, we said to ourselves, does this feel good? No, it feels terrible. Let's keep reiterating. Let's keep doing this. You know what I mean? And that's what I want to hear. That to me as a consumer makes me feel way more at ease, because then I don't have to be like always trying to advocate for all these little micro changes, because I'm pretty sure they got it. You know what I mean? Like all
Yeah.
the things that I'm thinking are probably like are probably to those same developers. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Yeah,
that,
and they might be coming from different backgrounds, different MMOs and whatnot,
right,
but there is a huge difference between um somebody who has religiously played MMORPGs and somebody who has dabbled in them, and both of them being developers of an MMORPG,
right,
right? Like, because it's one thing if you've only ever played one game, like let's say, I pick up SWTOR, that's the only MMO I've ever played, with not true, but let's say that's the case.
yeah. Let's say that's the case.
Um, Everything that I'm comparing to at that point, I'm we just naturally do this as humans. We pull from our own experiences to give feedback on anything that's new. And this is where the saying of bias always exists, no matter how hard you try to not have it. You're
True.
always going to try to get it to be like what you've experienced, because
Right,
that's what's comfortable. That's what you know.
right.
Not everybody, and not on every topic, but generally speaking, that's kind of the approach that people have. I'm a certified armchair psychologist. Um, um, and so, keeping that in mind, having developers who have played a wide breadth of MMORPGs as opposed to just one, even if they, let's say that person who's only played one maybe played 4 times the amount of hours as the people who have played multiple. I would rather have the person who has played multiple, because then when you're developing a new game, you have a lot more different reference points to pull from your past to go, this feels good, this doesn't feel good. Because the guy who only played Star Wars The Old Republic is saying, oh, this doesn't feel like Star Wars The Old Republic.
Right.
Whereas other people are saying, oh yeah, it kind of has this feeling, from this game that felt good, but then like these abilities are in there, which is cool. And so like, how do we mesh those together to kind of create something new? And so I feel like a lot of experience in multiple facets it makes it easier to create something new, as opposed to somebody who has just, you know,
Right.
railroaded themselves on one track and one track only.
See, and
It's hard to innovate without all those reference points, is what I'm getting at.
no, for sure. And I want to ask you this, because this is ultimately my fear. Now, World of Warcraft for the longest time reigned supreme as the top MMO. A lot of people, if they have played an MMO, chances are it was probably WoW. Now, you could have the offliers that maybe played something else, but WoW for the most part has had crap ton of people.
Mhm.
Now, the inspiration and a lot of the principles and systems that he's making Ashes of Creation upon are not from WoW at all.
Mhm.
Like, and the thing is that we always mention WoW clone, right? Because Star Wars is a WoW clone. We have like what, Final Fantasy 14, which is technically a WoW clone. They just do story
Careful, you
infinitely.
might piss off a
Oh, I know,
huge
I know, I
community.
know. But if you look at the systems World of Warcraft has, it has the same systems, is what I'm saying.
They've iterated upon WoW's
Right,
kind of original version, or
right.
original vision, and so yeah.
Yeah, and even Yoshi P, I mean, he's said it himself that WoW has been an inspiration for, Final
Yeah.
Fantasy. But
Well, and why wouldn't it be? I mean, hugely successful, right? Like,
for
I mean,
sure.
it I yeah, no, and WoW Clone was the way to go for a little while there, right? And
Well,
then
exactly. But I guess my fear because of that, and you have Ashley Creation, which is basically derived from Lineage 2 and Arcage, which again, those are old MMOs, and Lineage 2 to me is a little bit niche, like when it launched, because a lot of people, probably didn't play Lineage 2. Now, you probably have a lot of old school people in the comment section like, oh yeah, Lineage 2 was huge when it came out. It was huge. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying,
okay, boomer.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But at the same time, like a lot of people didn't play that game. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
my fear is that people are going to go into Ashes and it's going to feel like an entirely new experience. Now, to some people, that's going to be amazing. To others, that uncomfortableness, like we were talking about earlier, is going to be unsettling. Do you think, Redbeard, that they could actually try to find a medium between the two? or
So
do they even want to?
so I think that's the first question. And I think that the answer to the question is yes, but not at the not by sacrificing what they have as their vision for the game. It's gonna that statement sounds very like a very corporate political type answer, right? Like that's something you'd hear Steven say, like, "Yeah, of course we want to have new players come in, but we're not going to sacrifice our vision for the game."
Right.
Um, he's probably said that before.
Yeah, he has.
um, so I think the answer is yes. It's just a matter of how do you go about that. I think one of the important things is, and this is something that a lot of development studios have not done with their MMORPGs, is they focus too much on one aspect or one player base and
Right.
not both. And by both, I mean casual versus hardcore.
Right.
It's usually they're either like WildStar and they focus way too heavily on the hardcore,
Right.
or it's like WoW and they focus way too heavily on the softcore
Yeah.
or casual, with the exception of the top 1% with the world first race.
Right. Such a weird
But
delineation.
right, like like you can't even say that they look at all of the hardcore people because what the world first raiders are doing is on a whole nother level because it gets nerfed and reworked and everything. Like
Right.
those final bosses get nerfed from where they were essentially into the ground, and then you also have more gear than these top tier players do.
Right.
By the time your guild gets to it, and so what I would hope that Intrepid is going to do is I know that they're not trying to create a solo experience game, but I think that it is important for the people who have less time. Like let's say they log in for an hour or 2 hours, like once a day, every other day, something like that. Um, their time needs to feel well spent within the game because the moment and I have a supporting fact about that when it comes to pay to win and why I think pay to win is so crap. Um, but when somebody logs in, making sure that they don't feel as though they've wasted 2 hours of their life, I
Right.
think is really important. And so with that comes a little bit of solo play. Now, that doesn't need to be top tier content. That doesn't need to be like I'm sorry if you only play 7 hours a week in an MMORPG. The reality is unless you played a crap ton and now you're only playing 7 hours a week because
Right.
you've gotten everything done that you kinda need to get done and now you're just doing the upkeep.
Right.
Um, if you have only ever played 7 hours a day since the launch of or 7 hours a week since the launch of an expansion, the reality is you're just not gonna get to that higher tier because these types of games, one of the things that draws gamers like myself to it is that it requires a lot of time. Is that fair to people who don't have as much time as me to play? No, but get the fuck over it. Life isn't fair. Sorry. Like if you
Preach.
want your 45-minute game, like BRs are fucking great for that.
Right.
Like RTS games, like they're literally made for that.
Right.
Um, that being said, we shouldn't alienate that population either.
Right.
Um, so whereas I would personally say, "Too bad, so sad. Get good, kid." Like, um, I think it is important to make sure that they feel like that they're not wasting their time. Now going to the pay to win side of it that I was talking about, and why I'm bringing up that comparison is the value of time. The reason why, like, I played Lost Ark, I got to max level, I started playing, and then once I hit kind of it wasn't a paywall in the sense of there wasn't anything else to do. It was the moment that somebody who was able to swipe plastic
Right. To
was
get ahead of
able
you.
to progress further and faster than I could,
Right.
was then devaluing my time. And so that's why I bring it up as a reference point to this because anytime a player feels as though their time is not being valued within the game for whatever reason, that is when you lose that player. In my opinion, when it
Yes.
comes to an MMORPG, I think that is the number one thing that gets somebody to unsub, to uninstall, to never play the game again is when they feel as though their time is not valued by the developers, by the game itself. Um, so that is something that I think that they need to do both at a hardcore level, medium core level, and soft core level. They need to make sure that there is a path, even if each of those paths has its own separate ceiling that they can reach. Um,
In what way? Like I'm just trying to understand. Like
Mhm.
in questing, in getting gear. I'm just trying to
A
understand. Like,
little bit of everything. I think so, and you see this. I mean, think about a progression system at its core. Any kind of progression system, whether it be we'll take artisan. We'll go with crafting.
okay,
Um, Somebody who is able to, let's say you have three different types of players. You know, one plays 7 hours a week, another one plays 14 hours a week, and the other one plays 70 hours a week. Like we'll go real, we'll
yeah,
jump it real high there. Um, Logically, the person who has put more time into the game is going to have that system more progressed.
for
Whatever
sure.
that system is, whether it's leveling, whether it's crafting, whether it's gathering, whether it's raiding, whether it's PvP, um, and just that progression might just look different. You know, maybe it's rank in PvP, maybe it's bosses killed in PvE, and then it's artisan mastery. You know, within the artisan trees.
Right,
Um, Having impactful things happening at even the lower tiers is extremely important. So, for example, New World, I loved crafting in New World. In the end game, crafting while leveling was useless. Your drops were better. It was like crafting in every single MMORPG, right?
yeah, it's so
Like, there's like
trash.
maybe three things that are good, but you can craft like 200. And all of those other, 197 things are just dog water. Like you don't care about them. Nobody cares about them. So making that impactful at multiple levels allows the person who is only able to play for an hour a day log in, craft a couple of items, and then they log back in the next day and they see that those items sold, or it was really helpful to a guild member who was leveling. You know, it might be a couple levels behind them,
Right,
or whatever that is, because it's such an impactful system from level 0 to max mastery artisanship,
right,
that it feels good across the board. And I think that that's how you make sure that somebody's time feels
valued.
yeah, valued and well used, because
Right,
what the guy who's able to play 8 hours a day, what he's able to get done in a day, we need to make sure his time is valued as well as the guy who only played for an hour. And I
right.
kind of just talking over myself in a different way now, but yeah.
Well, I was gonna mention like what you just mentioned. I've always hated that, where they basically just give you gear up the wazoo as you're questing, right? And if you're a profession person, professions are absolutely meaningless. It's literally just a chore to go from, like, let's say skill point 1 to like 150 or whatever the end game skill point you need to hit for your
Yeah.
profession to get relevant shit at end game.
Right.
Um I, I'm gonna pitch something to you. Would you be down if Intrepid says, we're actually not giving you gear for quest rewards? We're going to give you a little bit of gold, and then we're going to give you, as a reward, mats, your choice of mats. And these mats you can actually either, take to a profession person to craft something potentially for you, or maybe you have to save multiple pieces, as you're questing, to like then be like, oh, if I get this and this and this, I can make boots. If I can get this and this, I can make a shoulder piece. If I were to take it to like a buddy of mine or whatever. Would you think, because again, if you were to have that, it provides social interaction. It provides you probably wanting to be in a guild, right? And it requires the purpose of, if you are a profession person as you're leveling, things to do and meaningful shit to craft as you're leveling. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So instead of actually, and I'm not saying that you can't have like an end quest reward that actually does provide you a piece of gear, but if you think about it, like, how many pieces of gear Lost Ark gave you as you were questing from 1 to 50? Probably a shit ton,
Yeah, I
you know?
honestly, I've tried to erase that game from my memory, so
Right. But even if you were to take World of Warcraft from level
Yeah,
1 to
yeah,
level whatever, 60, it's a shit ton of gear they just raining down
yeah,
from the sky at you. So if you were to get mats instead of actual completed gear, that would actually slow you down, because if you get to a point of now, oh, I'm level 12, but I'm still wearing level 9 gear, I can't progress until I get better gear because these monsters are fucking hitting me hard, like, or I'm not
yeah,
killing them as fast. So it naturally dampens you without feeling like it's damping you on purpose, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it's a time gate that doesn't feel like a time gate, right?
Right,
Like,
right, right, right.
it's kinda like the node system within the game. Like, I don't know if
Yes.
like, not to turn people off from Ashes of Creation, that's not my intent with this statement, it's just understanding what it is. The node system is the biggest time gate in the entire game.
For sure.
Because if the node cannot progress, then you cannot progress your artisanship. You don't
Yeah.
get the new quest to then progress your character level and
Right.
all this different stuff. Now, before you run for the hills and screw you, Steven, all of this stuff, there are so many different aspects of the game that what this system ends up doing is forcing you to play other aspects of the game.
Right.
Now, you might be sitting there going, "Okay, well, I only care about raiding, so why am I being forced to play other aspects of the game?" Okay, well, crafting is a huge part of this game. So maybe you take this opportunity to dabble in some crafting. Oh, you like naval content and you like PvP?
Right.
Okay, we'll go look at some of the naval content.
Mhm.
Like, know that in other games, the scope has been very limited on what is kind of considered end game. WoW, for example, end game is raiding. Everything you do to include PvP, you typically are needing to raid to be
Right.
able to accomplish all of those things. So raiding is the end game there. Everything else is secondary, tertiary, whatever.
Right.
And Ashes, it's supposed to be everything is kind of equal. It's just your own motivation is what makes it primary or secondary, rather than the developers telling you what is primary and secondary.
Right.
Um, so there's a clear distinction there. But to your question of would I want that to be in there? Yes, and I would actually even go a step further and say instead of
Ooh.
item rewards coming from like completing a quest line or anything like that, and I would say instead of getting materials, you get a blueprint. You can then take that blueprint and use it to craft the item. And so instead of needing the materials, you still have to go do participate in the social interaction side of it. I guess it could work to where it gives you all the materials required, but then there would be a concern of somebody screwing it up and they spend the resources on the wrong thing because people are idiots. Um,
True.
and so you kind of have to idiot proof it sometimes. Um, but giving them this token or item or something that they can take to the appropriate crafter. So it's still, implementing the social interaction side of the game. Take it to the crafter, they craft that item, boom, now you've upgraded your item. Now it seems like an arbitrary second step to something to just getting the item.
Right.
My biggest counterpoint to that is then technically all of crafting is arbitrary. Yet it is one of the most enjoyable things about any game, no matter what your primary motivation is. Almost everybody loves crafting to a certain extent. Now, some people are like, "Oh, no, no, that's not my thing. I don't want to be a part of it." But I can't tell you how many times I've heard that and somebody play a even halfway good crafting system game, which there's not
Right.
a lot of, but
Sadly
they
not.
they get into it and they're like, "Oh, this is actually kind of fun," because they've only had experience with shitty crafting systems.
Right.
Um, so just because on paper it might seem like an arbitrary step to get the same item, what you are gaining from that arbitrary step is the social interaction side of it. You're
Right.
learning who a crafter is on your server in that node. You might be developing, a working relationship with that crafter to where you go back to them in the future, like, oh, hey, I completed this other quest. Vladus is online. He crafted my last sword. Let me go ahead and take this sword thing over to him. And
Right.
now, and now you're kind of building upon that. Next thing you know, you find out Vladus is an axiom. He invites you to the guild. Boom, now you have a guild. Like, and so
Right.
there's without that potential existing, then you're just playing a solo RPG with other people around you. Um, and so that's why I would say take it even a step further to where I don't want any items to drop. I want it to be materials and blueprints, and that's it. I
No,
don't want
right.
except for like even like maybe a couple of legendaries would be cool to have drop. Um, but like I want everything to be done through crafting. The more powerful you make crafting in any game, the better the economy is.
Yeah.
The the more valuable your I don't want to say like lower tier, but if you have like let's say you're in a guild that's PvE focused, that's like raiding focused, in a game where crafting is like one of the most important things, even the person who isn't good enough to go into the raid, but is, like, amazing at crafting and loves progressing that stuff and just dumps all their time into crafting, now they are viable essentially in the roster because all of the raiders go out, they kill all the bosses, they get all the materials, they get all the blueprints, they bring it back to their crafter, and their crafter's like, "Feed me, and I will feed you."
Yep.
Like,
And it's a good feeling because I think the
yeah,
other thing that pisses people off, because like sometimes, like especially in WoW, I know Classic did this a lot. You would get a piece of gear that you couldn't even use. It was like, I don't even need this piece,
yeah,
but if you had materials, you yourself can pick, oh, I want to make this next. And then after I make this, I want to make that. And you could even have it kind of like idiot proof in the sense of like level 1 through level 5, to where your first quest that actually awards you materials, there, hell, even put an NPC for all of the starting professions, but they can only make one piece. They can't
yeah,
make anything else. And then after you go and turn in, and maybe even that's a quest where you go into that NPC, turn in those materials you got from the last quest
and that
to
introduces you to
that
the artisan system,
it's
yeah,
introduced it to the artisan system. And then that guy's like, well, I'm not too, because like we just got to Vera, right? So he could say,
yeah,
well, I'm not too high on my thing. So you may want to ask your friends and whoever,
fellow adventurers,
your
yeah,
fellow adventurers, to go to your black to look to find a local blacksmith that maybe can make more stuff than I can. And I
yeah.
think that would be a great thing for Ashes to do. The only thing again that scares me because I do want professions to be great and I want them to be very viable. But goddamn, I'm worried about bots. I don't know, because if you know the whole drama with Lost Ark right now and that whole deletion of bots that did the ban wave, they had over 650,000 players online, and then after they did that bot ban wave, it's now sitting at 250. So just to show you how many hundreds of thousands of bots that they had in Lost Ark, and the economy in Lost Ark is not even that great. Like let's just be
Yeah.
honest. You know what I mean? I don't even know what would happen to Ashes if they really made professions the thing for gear.
So I think so. There's two things. One is like is just kind of like a band aid or just like the first gate in preventing it. Lost Ark was free,
Yes, it
so
was.
right off the rip, there is a cost to the bot to the botters to put every individual bot into the game. If
Right,
that bot cannot recruit $15 in the span of a month, it is not worth it.
right.
Generally speaking, a bot can probably generate that, but it also takes a little bit more time, account signups, all of this different stuff, email verifications. Like, so that is at least a limiting factor. It's not preventative. Like it doesn't, it's not going to prevent them from existing, but it is a limiting factor. Um, Two, players can attack each other. If you see somebody botting, you as an individual can do something about it rather than just right
True.
click and report. If you're willing to take the corruption, which is unfortunate, but if you're willing to take the corruption, maybe you don't have any corruption on you. And so taking a sliver of corruption isn't going to be that big of a deal. Like
Well, it
to get rid of a bot,
depends.
absolutely.
It
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
depends
right.
because the bot could be a level 10 and I'm a level 47 or 42, and that's going to be a massive corruption if I try to
True.
kill it. You know what I mean? So I just hope, men, Steven, Intrepid, if you guys can just hire someone in the botting community and just have them explain all their tricks and what it is to maybe find like a bot. Because I think reporting, and the other thing about Ashes that I really love, Redbeard, is the fact that they're gonna have active GMs. Oh my
Yep.
god. I
Yep.
loved back in Classic that there was active GMs on servers, man. And it was just such
Yep.
you felt it when they got rid of it, like when it felt like the Wild West. You know what I mean? And shit can just happen whenever. And
Yep.
god damn, I
Oh,
hope.
I can't tell you how many different stories I've heard of people who are like doing some, crazy stuff in like Vanilla WoW
Right,
Burning Crusade or something like that. And then
right,
out of nowhere, a GM, comes out of GM stealth and is like, "Hey, stop that. They're glowing golden armor and all this
yeah,
crazy stuff." They're like, "Hey, stop that." And they're like, "What are you gonna do about it?" And they try attacking the GM and they just end up reflecting on themselves and killing themselves. But like that's just a cool experience in
I know,
general.
I
Like,
know.
not just the benefit of them being there, but and, like, the action that they're able to take by being there, but that's just a cool story. I mean, that story was told to me over 10 years ago, and I still remember it, and it happened to the person probably 10 years before he told me, or maybe 5
Right.
years before he told me.
Right.
Um, and so, like, those are fun interactions. Like, people wanna talk to
Right.
the game developers. I mean, that's
Right.
why we were all hanging out in that chat there. I mean, granted, it wasn't, developers, but, I mean, Vacnar, Roshan, like, I mean, those
They're
guys
good.
are
They're good dudes.
they're a part of it. Like, I
Mhm.
I consider them just as much as I consider them just as much of the Intrepid team as the rest of the developers.
Right.
Whether they're developing or not, because they're taking the feedback from the community and giving it to the developers.
Right.
Like, so anyways, not to go go completely off topic there, but I think the third part is in like the preventing the bot side of it is I think it'll be really hard to prevent the lower level bots in any game. And so you just have to be careful, like, when developing the game, that stuff can't be too impactful, like, within the first, like, 10 to 15 levels,
Right.
because that's very easy for the bots to get there. But
Right.
with how much time it's gonna take, not just to get to max level, but to get to max artisanship,
Oh, I
to where
know.
that stuff is really impactful, to where the real
Mhm.
money is gonna be made,
Right.
that will take so much time for a bot to get there that you basically just need to have a real player do it that's working for a third party website.
Right.
Which at that point, it's much easier to find, like,
Right.
to see people doing that. Um,
Because I know WoW had this problem too with like the classic WoW. Like, they had the Black Lotus issue with bots in that game, and the markets were kind of shitty for the longest time. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying is like and they said that they've been working like with tech to help botting, or to, not help botting, but to help prevent botting. God, don't help botting, but you know what I mean. I
Yeah, yeah.
I just because I think at the end of the day, right? Like we want this game to be like amazing, you know what I mean? And I'm just ready for this kind of profession system because honestly, I've never been about professions in World of Warcraft because if you've played WoW, I mean, I think you know what I'm talking about, right? And WoW's professions are
Yep.
god awful. They've been god awful for a long time.
Yeah,
And
if you're not running alchemy, what are you doing?
yeah, alchemy and enchanting. Those are the two
Yep,
professions that I've had pretty much in a lot of my characters. Like,
yep,
and either I would be like a herbalist because I would need it for the alchemy shit to feed to my main. But yeah, there was never a reason to be a jewel crafter or an inscriptionist because all that shit in the auction house was super cheap. So,
yeah,
like, imagine being that profession, putting cheap shit in the auction house that isn't even selling. It's like, what are you doing?
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? It just doesn't feel good. And then you feel like you wasted your time leveling this non-existent profession to make non-existent profit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I think at the end of the day, like I'm really glad that Steven is looking way more into the Star Wars Galaxies route with the profession system because man, I would really advocate for them not to even give gear at all in quest rewards and just give mats. And maybe you can have like different choices of mats because again, you are going to be able to I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Redbeard, but I think you're going to be able to as a mage wear light armor, medium armor, heavy armor. You're going to be able to basically wield any kind of weapon. So it's not like in World of Warcraft where you're a mage, you're just a clothy basically.
mhm,
So by giving you just cloth to go and make a robe or whatever, well, that's not going to be viable in Ashes because if I want to make a plate armor chest piece, I'm going to need some iron ore or something like
yep,
that. So I would like a variation of what mats you can make and what you can do. Because at the end of the day, too, if you have a guildie that has a bunch of different things and you're like, hey, maybe I want some cloth because I'm gonna funnel it to one of my other friends or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's plenty of stuff you can do with mats. And again, that also feeds into the caravan system, which
yeah.
I'm a huge proponent on the caravan system because that's going to be
You? No.
oh yeah, dude. I'm freaking ready. Like I don't know how suspects going to handle the caravan stuff,
I mean,
but
we're merkin, so we're definitely gonna have caravan stuff
really
figured out. Yeah, no, we're going merc guild. Did you not know that? Like, that's the entire
no.
yeah, we decided that a while ago. Like, yeah, we're basically, we decided that with our experience that we had in New World, um, we very much so enjoyed the merking side
Right.
more so than like the primary like big dog on the server.
Okay. So you
The
want
reason
Or
The
go
reason
ahead.
being is because it allows us to get our members more content more frequently, because we can say, "Hey, this 8-man merc group, you guys are," if they're a part of a PvP, maybe they go help, you know, a caravan get from A to B or something like that. Or if it's, a PvP merc group, maybe they go and they help with the siege and whatnot. And so you're able to have basically able to kind of dip your toes in all of the content
Mhm.
without having to deal with all of the roster issues and all of like that. I mean,
Right.
there's still going to be roster stuff on our side, obviously, right? Like we need
Right.
to fill those 8 people into that, but it's very different to fill 8 people as opposed to 40 or 50 or 60 for an entire raid. Um, and that's not to say that we don't have aspirations to do that stuff. It's just day one going into it, we've through New World, we've developed a really good reputation for ourselves. We want to continue that. I mean, we're looking at playing Throne and Liberty, potentially doing similar stuff in that, um, and just continuing to develop our reputation because we weren't the largest force on our server when we first started playing New World, but everybody knew who the fuck we were. Everybody,
Dang.
people knew. Like we had some of the hardcore sweaty PvPers, we had some of the hardcore sweaty PvEers, and basically we were able to use those people to represent the guild as a whole and say, "Yeah, you pay us a fee, and here's our 8 best PvPers, and we will,
Ah.
we're not going to guarantee the win, but this will help." Like
So, just correct me if I'm wrong. So, are you going to be a higher mercenary group, or are you just going to go out and murk whoever y'all want and kind of be a more bandit side?
not bandit side.
Okay.
Like political mercenaries, kind of like people hire us, we go do stuff. That's not to say that we aren't going to have our own things that we're doing, right? We're going to have our
Right.
own motivations, we're going to have our own goals that we're working towards.
Right.
But the primary function of what we're going for is, for example, if Axiom needed to fill 15 people into a raid roster,
Right.
they could come to us and say, "Hey, we'll give you, 500 gold ahead for 2 hours. Like we need, a tank, 3 healers, and 5 DPS. Like, what do you guys have?"
Right.
Um, or and then people can kind of hire us on an individual level.
So basically, y'all are going to be completely neutral. Like you're only get like basically greed is going to be your driving force.
Kind of.
This is so exciting talking about this shit, dude.
Basically, every game that I've ever played, there's always kind of been like the asshole guild, right?
Right. Right.
And so the way that we can be political is by choosing which contracts we take and which ones we don't. So, for
Mm,
example, let's say Envious and Axiom are about to start a siege.
okay.
Both of them contract us for 50 people. One is on attack, one is on defense. We can sit there and go, okay, is it just about the money or do we have a political vested interest on who wins this? Maybe you guys are offering the same amount of gold, but Axiom is saying, "Hey, like we'll kick in, some influence like as to what's happening with the node if we take it from Envious or something like that." Like, and so, then at that point it's like, "Okay, we can do this." But then if there's like a group that's like the asshole guild on the server,
Right.
we can discount our prices if it negatively affects them, or increase our prices if they want us to help them. Like, and so it's one of those things where it's like we could potentially have a lot of political sway in how stuff
Dude.
is going, but we also don't have to deal with the atypical political bullshit that you get in MMORPGs, like in open world MMORPGs, because we can kind of just say, "Hey, listen, you got the right amount of gold. It doesn't matter what we think." Like,
Right. No, so basically you're the little finger of the group, right? Of the guilds. Like
kinda,
because
but we do have like standards for ourselves, right? Like it's
right.
not there will be things where it's you know we'll deny like I wouldn't be surprised if we deny contracts just because you know we're not a fan of how a certain guild is operating on the server, right? Like
Right.
we don't agree with what they're doing every time, they get a mayor in office or in a node or something like that. Like they totally just take the node to shit.
Right.
And so, at that point we can be like, no, we clearly don't want to support this. This isn't good. Like this
Right.
isn't. And so, we have our own standards. We're not just a bunch of assholes that are money hungry.
Right.
Um, but it is a fun way to approach the game. Like it's a
Dude.
different way to approach the game, and it's a fun way to approach the game. So, but the main thing about it is getting as much content as we possibly can for our members, and that's the primary goal. And we felt that mercenary work would allow us to do that more than just saying we're a PvE guild, or just saying we're a PvP guild, or saying we're a PvX guild and trying to fill these giant rosters for all aspects of the game. We can just fill mini rosters and get more people more frequent content.
And that, dude, that's why I love mentioning the caravan system, because people don't understand the kinds of interactions that are at play. And Redbeard just gave amazing examples of all the different ways that suspect can handle a caravan. And
Yeah.
and that's all within Ashes of Creation. All of the things that are completely within the limits and confines of the game. And
Yeah.
I think that's, oh my god, that's to me
We're creating our own content within the game. Like you have the
right.
in-game content, and then you have the social interaction side of it. And there's so much content that could be made around the social interaction side. It doesn't just have to be mount offs. It doesn't just have to be
Right.
transplant competitions. It doesn't just have to be RP events. It can be how you decide to go about like your impact in the world. And I think that Ashes of Creation is developing a game where your impact in the world matters, not just from what dungeons are open and what world bosses are accessible level, but to the point of if we want to lock down this gathering area, maybe somebody hires us, for kill on site list stuff. Like
Right.
like who like the sky's the limit when it comes to a merc guild. Like you can everything is content at that point. If somebody's willing to pay for it, it's content. Like
Right. Because I mean, you could be bodyguards at the entrance of a freaking dungeon. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's, and that's the thing. Like there's, and I believe Steven said that there's going to be I don't know if they're gonna be called call to actions, or like an action board, or like an attention board, where there could be like things that, like, if I'm a complete stranger to you, I can leave something on the call board and say I need this done. Who can answer my call? Like basically, I've become a quest giver. Basically, I need
yeah.
this task done, and then you go by that same quest board and be like, "Oh, my guild can do that for him. Let me see what he charges, and help him." Like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they are going to have that, right? They're going to have
Um,
something like that.
I think from the I think the way that they had mentioned it, at least when it pertains to crafting, was that there might be a system to where an individual can put a request up, and then somebody can come. Oh wait, no, 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 no. I'm thinking of Dragonflight. Wasn't that something that they said in
Yeah,
Dragonflight?
that's a dragonfly thing.
Did I just confuse WoW and
I
Ashes? Uh,
dude.
I'll whip myself in the back for that one later.
No, it's all right.
Um,
It's all good.
but regardless of what game it is
Yeah.
actually in, I think a system like that would be really cool. To where basically somebody can go, whether it's something in a town or
Right.
um, through the auction house, whatever it might be, but basically say, "Hey, I'm looking for this kind of work being done." Because I think what makes crafting one of the other aspects that makes crafting feel really good as a crafter is when people are coming to you.
Right.
One of the things that I always hated about crafting in WoW, besides the fact that crafting in WoW basically doesn't exist, but when as a crafter, let's say you are one of the two things that you can do, like gem cutting or whatever cauldron making, whatever. Um, is standing in town and just spamming looking for work, looking for work, looking for work, looking for work, looking for
Right.
work. And so if there's enough crafting needing to be done, then the individual players will seek out the crafters, and that feels better as a crafter because it actually feels like you have a service that you can provide, and then you can be competitive with your pricing.
Right.
Oh, I charge this, but I guarantee these stats. This other guy might charge less, but he can't guarantee the same stats that I can. And so then there's a little bit more of a competition side of it. Free market, right? I mean,
No, for sure.
it opens up that kind of competitive market, which I think is really important even in a game.
I mean, even in classic WoW, I mean, engineers were never saying looking for work. Like they were always making something, whether it was bullets, arrows, you know what I mean, like grenades, like
Yeah.
on-use weapons. Like there was tons of shit. So like, I completely agree with you. Like as long as they have stuff that people are looking for, they'll never have to look for work because people will always be seeking them out. And I know for myself, I had my own personal engineer that I had relied on, and I had a personal discount because every time I went to him, I referred business to him, and I got my bows at a premium. And even when I remember getting the new epic bow or the epic arrows, he charged me the same as the rare ones.
Mhm.
You know, because I basically was or not hounding him, but I was always having to make my shit for fucking almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, what I want to see in town is a bunch of people looking for crafter rather than a
right,
bunch of crafters saying looking for work.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the like I said, there's just so much shit that's going to be in Ashes that I am just so ready for that I think the majority of people have never experienced. And again, to just go back to an older point, like I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like people need this new. Like I think as a World of Warcraft person that has been a WoW Andy for God near 15 years, I'm ready for this, man. I'm ready for a new experience and not just another WoW simulator. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are right now because the state of gaming right now is terrible, bro. And it's not just, I'm not talking just MMOs right now. Like you go to first person shooters right now, they're not having a great time either. They just
Yeah.
launched Halo Infinite. Who the hell is playing that right now? Less than like 20,000 people a month. You know what I mean? So they're having to
Yeah.
play like the same first person shooters, just like for us MMO players, right? There's only the same MMOs to play. Like I feel like, I don't know if you feel like going into suspect in your Discord, but I know the kind of atmosphere that's in Axiom right now. It's very like, I don't know if listless is the right word, but just like unmotivating because there's like nothing good to play and people want
Every game is an Ashes waiting room game. Like
yes.
that's what it feels like right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Yeah.
if it's because I am like in Ashes of Creation.
I think it's part of it, unfortunately.
No, right. But even the people that are waiting for like Riot's MMO, right? I mean, people know that Riot's making an MMO, and to some people, it feels like, oh, every game is a Riot MMO waiting room too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think people are just wanting a new experience, and I don't know if we talked about this about Throne and Liberty, but I am not too optimistic about Throne and Liberty. It's
Yeah,
first
I we haven't decided if we're gonna, like, officially, like, stand up Suspect and Throne and Liberty. We need to see
right,
what their pay model looks like first.
which it's
That's
NC
Yeah,
soft, and that's
exactly.
why I don't have faith in this game. Because if Lineage 2 taught me anything when I researched that game and how passionate Steven talked about the cash shop in that game, I don't think Throne and Liberty is going to be too much better. So I all
There
I
is some hope. There was a statement saying that they were not looking to go down the similar model,
I hope
but
not.
from what people have told me, apparently they've made a similar statement before, and still it's been pay to
It
win.
still did it, yeah.
So we kinda just need to see how far they go with it. Um, as long I mean, pay to win is such an unfortunate thing because there are some things that I personally am okay with when it comes to how they do microtransaction models. I'm okay
Right,
with kind of pay to convenience stuff, not to the point of like you level faster or stuff like that, but um, like inventory space, like Path of Exile, right? You can buy more inventory space. There's kind of some pay to convenience aspects to it. You pay it one time, it's unlocked forever. I think
right.
stuff like that is okay, but what's unfortunate about it is it's a slippery slope, and we're
Yes.
now almost at the bottom of that slide. Like
Yep.
where Diablo Immortal just came out, and it's one of the most egregious pay to win models that has ever existed in any game ever. Like as far as I'm concerned, we've just hit the bottom of the slope. Like,
Yeah.
and so
And I think that's what's
it's hard for me to say, like, I'm okay with some pay to win because I know, unfortunately, I wanna rephrase it from pay to win to pay to convenience because I'm not okay with spend money, get awesome weapon. Um,
right.
it's it's unfortunate that I have to kind of take a stance of no pay to win whatsoever, even though personally there is some stuff that I would be okay with. Um, but I have to say no pay to win whatsoever because the industry has shown us that they are not willing to stop. Once we start going down that slope, they're going to run it all the way through to the bottom, aka Diablo Immortal. So it's unfortunate that you kind of have to take a hard stance on it, right? You're either okay with all of it or you're okay with none of it. And
Right.
it's because they just keep pushing they just keep pushing, the edge on it further and further and further until everybody is no longer okay with it. And there's people who are fine with what Diablo Immortal is. And so it's like, well, shit, maybe we're not at the bottom of the slope. Maybe it can get worse. Maybe they're going to find a way to
Mm,
fuck everybody over before before we die.
all I can say about that is it could always get worse. Always.
True.
And but
It's really hard to tell how Diablo Immortal microtransactions could get worse. I mean, I guess technically they could just cost
bro,
more. Like it could always just cost more.
there could
But
always
I
be
feel like
a
a half a million to max out a character is pretty egregious, and it's fair to say that's probably pretty close to the bottom of the slope.
I mean, I definitely agree, but I always feel like Blizzard and Activision can just do a hold my beer moment and just really show us like,
Yeah.
oh, you thought it was egregious before?
If they
Oh,
if they t- if they took half the motivation that they had to monetize Diablo Immortal and put that to any of their other IPs and making it a good game,
right,
they would make good games constantly.
right. And I think that's the other just completely demotivating factor for me is the fact that like I want to play a game. I want to play a live service game. I do.
Mhm.
I just don't want to play one that has pay to win shit. I don't want pay to win, which is why I've been such a huge advocate for Ashes of Creation because Steven has always said and pledged multiple times in multiple interviews that Ashes of Creation will not have any pay to win mechanics.
To the
And
point to the point where it's actually, I think, technically legally binding at this point because
yeah,
people have bought in and supported the game under the premise of not pay to win. And
right.
so if he were to back out on that, then you run into another um what was the game? Elion? Not Elion.
Albion?
No. It was one of the Kickstarter games that dealt with a bunch of lawsuits.
Oh, Chronicles of Illyria?
Illyria, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you end up running into an Illyria issue because people have bought in, and if they don't offer those refunds back to them, I think they can technically be sued by
Oh,
not
for
fulfilling
sure.
their promise of what the product was going to be.
Right.
So yeah, there's another thing that I think people overlook because I still run into people who are like, "Oh, Ashes is going to be pay to win," and I'm just over here like, "Okay, listen,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong,
Right.
but if they were to do that, that the amount of money that they might potentially make from it being pay to win, they're going to start so far in the red because of either all the refunds that they're going to have to do or all the lawsuits that they're going to lose just to support pay to win. Like we're not even just going on Steven's word. We're going on Steven's word that has then been backed by money. And once money gets involved, that's when the lawsuits start coming in.
Right.
So I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say that Ashes is not going to be pay to win, at least on launch.
Well,
Once the game launches, then I think he's technically no longer legally bound to what he said prior to launch. But
no, right, but I've heard a lot of people that have played with Steven in other MMOs, and you know
he's wailed out. He has wailed out in other MMOs before.
well, yeah, I mean he has, I mean, but he's never like he's always been that kind of person where you can trust him. Like you know what I mean? He's never for the
Yeah,
people that have played with him says that he is a trustworthy dude. He was a
yeah.
good guild leader. He's very passionate, and clearly he's very passionate because it comes through a lot in his mannerisms and how he speaks, his tonality. But you know, just like myself, I played WoW for so long, and I tried to not look at the WoW token. But there's only so much not looking at the fucking WoW token when it's literally presented in front of your face, like every fucking chance it gets, you know? And then you have all the gold prices in WoW skyrocketing. Like, and I'm a raider, I need 20 freaking potions, 4 flasks or 3 flasks, like every week. You know what I mean? And I'm running out of fucking gold because the economy is shit, and I'm not gonna go out and farm that crap. There's been plenty of times where I looked at that WoW token thinking like I may need to fucking buy one. But I got to the point of being so vitriolic that I just said, I'm not even gonna fucking buy the potions. If my raid leader says, why aren't you using potions? I'll say either give them to me or I'll leave. I was getting that vitriolic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's all because of fucking pay to win. And I think Steven was at that same breaking point with Lineage 2. He always talked
Yeah.
very passionate about that seed story, the Thunder Seeds or whatever, and how that whole pay to win thing happened in that game. It's a very shitty experience when you do put in not only a bunch of money, but you've put in time. Time is irreplaceably like it's
Yeah.
irreplaceable. And hell, I put in 15 years of WoW. I don't regret any of that time at all. But it does feel really bad that cost sink fallacy. It's real, man.
Yeah.
Like it's freaking real.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and that's what's so hard about making a game in general is everybody values their time at a different level, right?
For
Like,
sure.
I might look at $15 a month and go, okay, that's doable. That's something that we can do. Or in this case, $30 a month because the wife and I will both be playing and go, you know, maybe we don't. I mean, we really don't go see movies anyways. We actually, I mean, we don't eat out very frequently. Like we make our own food.
Right.
Um, but that then allows us to look at something like Ashes of Creation or a subscription cost and go, yeah, that's acceptable. But then
Right.
if there's more pay stuff within it, whether it be pay to convenience, pay to win, now it starts getting into okay, is this worth not going and seeing a movie? Is this worth not going and doing this? And
Right.
people who have a budgetary mindset will look at it that way. But I think the majority of people look at it and go, well, I don't have that money. Like a lot of people don't go, well, maybe I won't get Starbucks this week, so I can do this instead. I think a lot of people just kind of look at their bank account and go, "Can I currently afford this?" Rather than kind of budgeting that, going off a budgeting rabbit hole. But
No, right. No, right, right. Is just curious, is your wife gonna play Ashes when it comes out?
Mhm.
Bro, my wife is gonna
She's a
play Ashes.
gamer.
See, my wife isn't. We haven't even built her a computer yet. That's her desk right there.
She's getting this computer when I upgrade for Ashes.
Oh, see, that's probably what I'm gonna do then, because she wants she was like, oh, because she's been looking at TikToks lately and she loves the Lian Lee like white case with all the white,
Yeah.
like everything white. She wants everything white, so I got her a white desk. It's actually a standable desk. It's adjustable. You can do the sit down or stand or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like my wife says, like, yeah, you talk so passionately about Ashes, and she is a gamer, but she is like the console old school gamer. Like my wife plays like Super Nintendo and 64, PlayStation, but she's never played an MMO before. Like Ashes is legit going to be her first MMO experience. So I don't know if your wife's played MMOs before, but for me, I'm just so excited because as an MMO player, Ashes seems like a dream come true, and for her to be this being her first experience, it's like what better first experience? You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Yeah, if it delivers on everything that it
right.
wants it to be, like I part of me actually kind of feels bad a little bit because she might not understand how good it is.
I
You know
know
what
that's
I mean?
my yes. She's gonna be like, "Oh, this is all right," and I'm like, "Oh my god, babe, you don't even know.
Right.
This is amazing. You
Right.
have no idea." Get all mad. No, but yeah, it's the same thing. Like, I'm just excited, man. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, me and my wife, like, in this room playing Ashes together, like defending a caravan against suspect. That's gonna be, I mean, that's gonna be such an experience, man. And
Yeah.
it's just like I've never played a game, or I have played, but it's been so long. It's like even back in WoW, like where like when I'm excited to like I want to get off of work, or I need to get home from school to like play this game. I haven't felt that in so long. And it's not, and I feel like Ashes is, if everything happens the way we're thinking in our heads, which again, it could be totally different. But if they could deliver on everything, man, that feeling, and I think that's like that copium feeling that everyone talks about. But I'm not trying to chase nostalgia at all. What I am trying to do is chase a new experience. That's what I am trying to chase. And I feel like whenever you chase a new experience, especially in gaming, it does make you feel like a 16-year-old again. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it makes you feel like whenever you did play that first game and it just enthralled you and just got you so motivated to just beat it to the end. You know what I mean? And I feel like if Ashes does deliver, it's gonna be an experience, man. But
Yeah.
just to kind of wrap up our conversation, because I can't even believe we've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes. It doesn't even feel like it, dude. It feels like we just talked for like 10 or 15 minutes. But
I'm sure the viewers are probably like, Jesus Christ, this bearded bald bastard never shuts
oh
up.
my god, whatever.
They're like, oh, it feels way more than 15 minutes.
No, I am pretty sure the people that listen to my podcast would be like, bro, has it fucking been an hour and 15 minutes? Like they're probably gonna be like looking at their watches and shit. No, but seriously, like so now that we've gotten combat, right? At least a little bit of a taste of combat. My question to you is, how do you think the rest of the live streams are going to go for the rest of the year? Like we have the remain like half of the year remaining now. We're in July. So like how do you think we're going to see more combat updates like maybe even this month? Do you think they're going to wait? Do you think we're probably going to get maybe a combat update again in like in 2 months?
So I kind of I had watched the live stream a couple of times because I did a like my own live stream kind of reaction to all of it, community response side of it and whatnot, and kind of went through and saw what people were saying. And in the process of rewatching the live stream, both in the video and outside of the video, Steven said the same thing a couple of times, but then also said something um, extra in the video or in the live, like in the Q&A portion or whatever. But I actually have it up right here. So the first one that we saw was the melee weapon basic attack and floating text UI. That was kind of the update that we just recently got.
Right.
I have down that we still need to see range weapon basic attack,
Right.
ability system, class rotations and kits, and the VFX pipeline. So that
Right.
alone right there, what is that? One, two, three. We have four updates that as long if they're segmented the way that he was talking about them,
Right.
that's four updates that we still have just on combat alone. And I'm sure that there's
Right.
probably more that'll be layered into that stuff.
Right.
Um, I think we get combat kind of every month for maybe the next 2 or 3 months, and then maybe there's a break and they talk about, like, the map changes that they talked about,
Oh, the updated
or
map Vera. Yeah.
yeah, um, so the map changes or another artisan system or something like that, and maybe they kinda go every other, like, it's combat, then something else, combat, then something else.
Right.
Um, but I think leading into next year it's going to be a good time to be a fan of Ashes of Creation and following the development. So I think regardless of what we see, Steven has kind of set the bar now at combat, and so
He
I
has.
think anything else but combat that he talks about on the monthly update needs to be either additive on top of combat or just as good as combat. And so then we're looking at class systems, we're looking at naval, we're looking at artisans, we're looking at like
Right.
all of nodes 3, like which will never happen. I think they're just gonna skip nodes 3 and it's gonna be nodes 4 and
Dude, they're
there's
gonna
gonna be
show
there's gonna
notes
be a
3.
relic.
No, they're gonna
No,
show it.
this is what I honestly want them to do with Nodes 3. I want it to be an exploration item within Ashes of Creation that is so well hidden that people don't find it for like 5 or 6 years.
Oh my
And that
god.
somebody comes across this random relic hidden under this random rock in this random location in Vera, and they find it and they go, "Oh, I found Nodes 3."
Oh my, and it's just a book that just says
Yeah, it's just
notes
a
3.
book. Yeah, yeah. It's titled Nodes 3 and all the pages are like
Oh.
burnt out of
Oh my
it.
god. No, I mean, I do think that Steven is gonna do notes 3. I think he just says
Yeah,
that it's gonna be such a huge beat of like
yeah,
amping the marketing up to that degree that it'd just be pointless if it just went up, pinged, and then went all the way back down because they still have
yeah.
all these months to develop and stuff.
Well, and I think they even have to reiterate basically on nodes 1 and 2 because it's been some
True.
time since that. And so they
Yes.
basically are it's not just nodes 3 that they need to come out with. They need to come out with nodes 3
Director's
and
cut.
then yeah,
Basically.
and then director's cut of like nodes 1 and 2, right? Like
Right, right,
so there's definitely a lot there. But I think that the live streams for probably at least until the end of the year are looking pretty good.
right. So are you of the mindset that Alpha 2 is gonna come out probably first quarter next year?
Um I would say that estimation isn't as far-fetched as it was a month ago.
Yes. And Steve, did
Yeah.
you hear Steven say this during this live stream? That we're not going to show you everything. That's why, we're saving it for Alpha 2, because
Mm.
people are thinking that before we get Alpha 2, we're going to see a live stream of every single freaking system we haven't seen a live stream on.
Yeah, no.
That's not going to happen. Like, it really isn't. And I think because we're still going to get live streams when Alpha 2 is out. But now that we actually have Alpha 2 in our possession, and we're like, well, what is this religion system? Like, how does it work? Now they can have a whole live stream on the religion system and be like, hey, now that you've seen it, now we can actually go into depth of like all the different variations of it and da 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 da. So you're not going to get a live stream of every single system and or even every single class. They may show only like a class before Alpha 2 comes out, like a class we haven't seen, maybe like a Ranger or the Bard or something like that. But they may save like Summoner or, Rogue completely for Alpha 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
Mhm.
personally don't think we're going to get a live stream for all the systems we haven't seen stuff on. And that's why I do think they're further along than we think they are. I really, really do.
Well, and with how they've set themselves up I've said this so many times before, I probably said it when you were on Two Guys at a Bard, but,
Hmm.
um, the way that they're going about developing this game is they're trying to create the baseline systems in which they can plug and play into.
Right.
So they're doing it, in my opinion, correctly. They're not developing like they have a core team working on a baseline system, and then all of the other teams that play into that. And he kind of laid this out. One of the engineers laid this out on the live stream where they're able to have the VFX people and the sound people and the animation people all kind of working on the same thing at once because they've created the baseline system that allows them all to implement and tweak it kind of at the same time.
Right.
So, and I think a lot of people don't even realize that they're not even just trying to innovate the player experience. I think they're innovating the development experience as well.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
the I would not be surprised that if Ashes launches and it is successful, that people start to develop that when it comes to developing new IPs. Because it's hard to do with an IP that already exists, right? I mean, it's
Right.
why WoW has spaghetti code. Um,
Yes.
they update something in retail version of the game and it, you know,
Jack
glitches out a
something out.
boss back in kata, like,
Right. No, it's true.
um, yeah,
It
no, literally every update something breaks. So I think it's going to kind of change the industry, not just from the player perspective, but from the developer perspective as well, in a good way.
Yeah, and that could only mean more content with less bugs, because they
Yep,
already they already did the whole development pipeline as they were making the game, and as it should,
yep,
because again, it's a lot easier with today's technology to make a game. I can download Unreal 5 and make a game by myself. That technology was not available like, 10, 15 years ago. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So it is a lot easier. And I just think now with like especially with people's knowledge and how smart people are nowadays, I mean, it's kind of incredible, like what they can do. But I mean, I was going to call you Super Redbeard, dude. Thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate you coming on and having this chat with me. It's so funny because like I know I wanted to talk to somebody, and I was like, out of all the people, I was like, I want to talk to Redbeard because I literally have not talked to you in forever, and
Yeah, it's been a
so
minute.
it's been a minute. But this was an awesome conversation, and like I said, I'm pretty sure the people were like, I did not think this was an hour and 15 minutes. It's actually an hour and 25 minutes now, but
Yeah, I know. We tried to end
we
10
did.
minutes ago.
But it's hard. It's hard. Okay, I'm addicted to Ashes of Creation, but
Yeah.
Redbeard, where can people find you? Like the Twitters. I know you also stream on Twitch too, right?
Yeah, so, I'm actually looking at a change with, my live streaming.
Mm,
I am contemplating to switch over to YouTube. So that
interesting.
hasn't officially happened yet, and, I mean, I have reasons for it, but I'm sure people don't necessarily wanna hear it, but, um, but as it is right now, Twitch, CptRhedBeard, RHED, Captain Redbeard over on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Same across all platforms. Um, I am streaming Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, 7 p.m. Central. Usually go for I try to do at least 2 hours. but I'll go anywhere from 2 to the the line is I'll stream anywhere from 2 to 12 hours depending on, what I have going on the next day and if if we're having a good time and hanging out. But
Right.
my whole thing when it comes to content creation, especially live streaming, is I for me personally, it's reliving the old days of the LAN party.
Yeah,
And gaming is fun, but gaming while having conversations with other people is that much more fun for me. So
for
it's
sure.
about the interaction, it's about hanging out, having a good time, people saying I'm shit at something, me telling them to shut up, trolling each other, just having a good time. So that's what my content's all about. And looking to potentially I'm working on thumbnails. I would actually like your feedback if you could look at my channel after this
Sure.
and give me some feedback on thumbnails. So
Oh, yeah, dude, I'm always trying. I just improve.
I'm a 2-day veteran of Photoshop now, so I'm basically a professional, but
Dude, I recently just updated the 1v1 thumbnail, and it took
Mhm.
me a while. And I wanted to go a simplistic approach, but that
Yeah.
felt a little bit more modern, just a little bit more updated than the previous one. And I really like what I came up with. I think it's really nice. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, definitely check it out. But I'll leave down in the description below. I'll leave links to his Twitch, to his Twitter. I'll list the, what is it, Friday through Sunday.
Yep,
I'll
yep,
list the
Friday through
days.
Sunday.
I'll list all the days that he's available on Twitch and stuff like that, so you can find him. Again, Redbeard, thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me, man. It's always
Oh,
good.
oh yeah, no problem, man. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you like this, then please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Later, guys.